So we're going to do a series of 5 different watercolor cards, all created with the same color palette. I'm going to use Distress Oxide ink for all 5 cards and these exact same 5 colors for all 5 cards. So this is sort of a fun rainbow, bright summer kind of collection that I picked out. Just some of my favorite colors. So we have picked raspberry and spiced marmalade, mustard seed, this is a fantastic yellow, twisted citron, which is actually my least favorite of the greens, but in this collection I really like them, and my all-time favorite, peacock feathers. There is nothing better. This is my absolute favorite color of Distress Oxide. Okay, so we're going to use all 5 of these colors in 5 cards. Let's go. Okay, this is going to be watercolor resist. So we're going to do this background for that watercolor resist technique. And we're going to use our 5 colors of Distress Oxide ink to do so. To make this card, the extra stuff that we're going to need is we will need water and a heat tool. We are going to create the resist, we're going to be embossing. For that we're going to need an embossing ink. This is my favorite. It's a clear sticky ink. And embossing powder, this is my favorite white. This is by Lawn Fawn. I find this particular white to be crisp white and it raises really nice. I really like that. This is a handy tool to have on hand as an anti-static powder tool. And then the stamp we're going to use is from Hero Arts. This is one of their big background bold prints, clings. And I'm going to use that to create the background. For paper, the cardstock that I'm using is Cardmaker's Choice 100-pound white cardstock. And then for the resist portion, that is on watercolor paper. I like to use Strathmore Vision watercolor paper for that. So let's go ahead and create and do the embossing first, get that out of the way, then we'll come back and die cut and then finally color. So for the embossing layer, I'm going to be doing that on watercolor. I've trimmed this to be a little layered that would fit on top of our card. And I'm going to need a little catch paper. This is just some typing paper. Okay. Now this stamp is much larger than the piece I'm going to be stamping onto. So what I'm going to do is actually apply ink to the stamp itself. Like I said, this is Versamark ink. This is a clear ink. It's very sticky. It's the one that I like to use for embossing in particular because it is so sticky, it dries very slowly. Okay, so I got that very well inked. Then I'm going to carefully lay down my watercolor paper onto the inked portion, and then I'm going to put a piece of that typing paper over the top and just smooth. This is how you can stamp with a very large stamp without having a block or a stamp press. If you have a brayer, you can do this over the top too, but it is not necessary for this technique. You can simply use your hands. But we want to make sure we press really firmly. We're not smooshing the paper around because we don't want to mess up the lines of the ink. But we do want to make sure it gets very, very well inked. Okay. And now we will remove the paper, which you will have treated first with the powder. Okay. Then we're going to put on some white embossing powder right over the inky stamped design. Just kind of make sure that falls and touches everywhere. Tap off the excess onto our typing paper, copy paper. So now I've got that all powdered, but it is not set yet, so don't touch it. And then we will use the crease in this paper to help us easily return all the excess powder to our jar. My glass mat is heat resistant, so I can just do this right over my glass mat. So now that I'm at the halfway embossed, I want to show you in the light, hopefully it will show. Do we see the shine? This has been embossed, and this that has no shine has not yet been embossed. The heat has not melted the powder yet. And just make sure every bit has been embossed. And you can just kind of turn it in the light to make sure it all looks glossy everywhere. And that is heat embossing. Okay. So that's ready. We're done with embossing. We'll set this aside and let's get our die cut ready. So we have our card base and our embossing. Next, what we want to do is cut out the hello there and the circle die cut. The hello there, I am going to be adding wet ink, so I want to cut that out of some watercolor paper. And then the cool layer here is achieved with this set of dies from Pink Fresh. So I'm going to take the 3 larger pieces and we're going to die cut that. So for all of that, let's bring out our Big Shot die cut tool. Okay, so we have our platform, our shim, and our one cutting mat. I want to cut this hello there. I want to be cutting that out. And from white paper, I want to be trimming out that circle. So this is a layered circle die, so I want to find the side that has the ridge on it. This is the smooth side, this is the ridge side, so ridge side down on that paper, and then the next biggest one with the bumpy side down, and then the next bumpy side down. This is a cool die because it cut these 2 inner layers, don't cut the entire thing. Okay, and we're going to sandwich that, and we are going to attempt to cut all of this at one time. The middle, so our hello there looks great, and that's out of watercolor paper, so we should be able to get that wet. Okay, and then these guys, this piece cut the circle, this piece popped the little holes, and this piece should have made the little ovals. So all of these little guys we're going to have to pop out. Just run my fingernail over most of them. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Get rid of all those, and we are set to start our coloring. Okay, so we're going to start with coloring this guy first. Now this is our rainbow of colors that we have to choose from. All right, I'm going to make, so I did a pink one. Let's make this one a different color. Let's try green. What I'm going to do is use my glass mat as if it's a little palette. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water. And then I'm going to take this little guy and put it pretty side down and just submerge it into the pool. He's just going for a swim. And I'll lift that up, see what it looks like. Okay, then we're going to take a heat tool and dry it. If you don't have a heat tool, that's okay. You can just let it air dry. Now, could I have just cut this out of some green paper and skipped all this messy stuff? Absolutely, you can do that. However, by using the ink, I can ensure that the color is going to perfectly match with the rest of my background, and also I'll be able to get some variation in the look. I can get a little bit more intense here and a little bit lighter there because I'm using ink. I can't really achieve that with a solid piece of paper. There. Then I can go back in and get more and dry that. So I just set it and lifted, and let's dry it as is. And what that's going to do is put these little splotches of that color, so it's a little bit more intense in those places. See how I have this really fun variation, a little darker there, a little lighter there. Another cool technique is if this is dry, you can take some water and just spritz it one time. Let it sit for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then lay some paper towel on top and lift. And what that does is it removes some color and gives you the kind of this splotchy teardrop appearance. Give it one more dry. So now he's all set, and he's going to be living on top of here, so I think that looks really cool. So now let's make this background piece. So we're going to come back to the watercolor that we created before. So, or the embossing that we created before. And let's go ahead and watercolor it. So we can do this a couple different ways. We can bring the ink to the paper, or we can bring the paper to the ink. For this one, let's bring the paper to the ink. So I want to make a rainbow of colors here. So we'll start with our pink. I'll come way over here and I make a pink, little swoosh of pink. Right next to it, I'll do a little squish of orange. And then our yellow. This is the Twisted Citron color. This will be the same color as our hello there, so we want to make sure we definitely get green in there. And then some peacock feathers. Ooh, I love that color. Okay, let's get this whole thing wet. Then we're going to take this guy, and just like we did the hello there, we're just going to pop it in. Now I want to get a little bit of all colors. So I think I'm going to do these 3 colors this way. And I'm just going to squish it back and forth, and I'm pressing down. So I really want to get that ink in there. Okay. Then on this side I'll do these 2 colors. Very cool. Okay. So I have this big swatch in the middle. So the last thing we need is a paintbrush. This can be any kind of paintbrush, doesn't matter what. And for this, now we get to direct the color. So I'm going to pick up, I want more pink up here, so I can directly paint the pink right in the spots where I want it. I can get more orange directly where I want it, and I can get more yellow right where I want it. And now I want this yellow to come down into here and meet the green. I'm going to blend where these 2 colors meet. I'm going to blend. Okay, and then spray paper towels, wash this off. Need a little more orange coming in through here. I'm going to take our paper towel and kind of blot. Isn't that cool? It's so vibrant. Now if I want this to be a little bit more of a color, I can pick up more color and get it right in there. So the brush really helps you to specifically put the color where you want, but I have these harsh edges, so I do want to wet that with the whole thing. And then I'm just going to kind of tip it back and forth. Let the color move around a bit so that the colors are all blend together. I'm going to get a fresh piece of paper, a fresh paper towel, and blot. Beautiful. Okay, we clean all this up. Okay, and let's dry this guy. Now you don't want to over dry this because it has been embossed, and we don't want to flatten out our embossing. That's what can happen is if you overcook the embossing, the height you achieve, that plastic that is raised will flatten out, overcook, and you can even scorch the paper. So we don't want to lose the embossing, so I'm going to apply heat and then set it aside and give it some time to cool down. Look at this color. Look at how the embossing resisted the color. Still slightly damp. I'm waiting until it feels cool to the touch before I add more heat. And I'm just going to do this in like 30-second bursts in between until I do feel like it's dry. There we go. That's feeling good. We haven't lost any of the embossing. It's still shiny. And we have that really cool background. Okay. So now we can start to assemble our card. We get all our parts and pieces here. We have our card front. Now this one, I think what I want to do is go ahead and create the top and then apply it and then add it to the card base. So for this, the hardest part is going to be deciding where I want this to be. So on this one, I kind of have, I made sure I have a little bit of all the colors. And I really want to make sure I have plenty of green showing to complement this. But if I put it up here, I'm going to lose the pink and it gets a little too washed out. This gives me lots of variation. Let's see what it looks like on this side. Ooh, I like it right here though. I still have the green, but I have all these beautiful colors. We could do it this way instead. That's also nice. I really like this section. That's funny. What I like the least is the green section. But as long as a little bit is showing, I think that will work. And I'm kind of thinking we do it this direction instead and trim it like that. Or it could be at the bottom. Ooh, yeah. I like it at the bottom. And we'll trim that. Okay, so on this one, I have this raised up a little bit, so we're going to use some foam tape for that. And remember that we're trimming off a portion of the bottom, so we don't need to go all the way down. I just want enough. I need enough room for the hello there, and that will work. Okay. So press that down, turn it over, and then that's where we know where to trim. Take a glue pen, and we will put on some adhesive. That is so pretty. I love it. I mean, the pink is very like bold and in your face, and the green isn't quite there, but I still really like it. It looks cool. Okay, then this whole piece is going to get foam mounted to our card base, so we're going to get a bunch of foam. I notice he is sticking out the edge a little bit, so I'm going to undercut that guy. Alright, let's put it on our card front. We have just a little border all the way around. There we go. Okay, and finishing touches will be a few little gems. You could use sequins or little pearls, bling, whatever you might have. And apply that with some liquid adhesive or with some glue dots. And for these, we're just going to kind of stick them here and there, sort of as if they are scattered across the card haphazardly. That is our finished Watercolor Resist card. Which one do you like better? I really dig, I love the color. It's almost like there's a rainbow going on around it. It's exploding in rainbow.